Thursday, February 13th, 2020, MONERO 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. This morning, I want to talk about how our central banking system is nothing more than a Ponzi scheme and why it's doomed to fail, why we're doomed to have huge crisis again like we've had in the last 100 years or last 300 years of central banking. I'm going to reference a saying by the founder of the Bank of England. I'm going to reference Charles Ponzi, the original, of course, person who invented the Ponzi scheme, named after him, of course. I'm going to look at what Powell is saying now about monetary policy and what's going on in the economy and what's going on in China. I think, of course, what's going on in China as it relates to the virus is going to be used as an excuse to blame for the eventual slowdown of the world economy. Yes, it could be a trigger, but the real underlying problem is our Ponzi scheme monetary system. I'm going to use an analogy as well for that. To explain to people in an easy fashion. Don't have to go into too many technicalities. And you might wonder, how come if we have this Ponzi scheme system, if it's so blatant, how come we keep going with it? Well, I think it's because, unfortunately, the whole system is hijacked. The educational system has hijacked the media, culture, and those who question it, like me, are considered conspiracy theorists and other things. Before I start, as I'm going to talk about central bank Ponzi, I've got here today one of my other mugs. It's time to retire the old lady of Threadneedle Street and shut down the bank's doors. The old lady of Threadneedle Street is the nickname for the Bank of England. So here's the mug. There are different colors if you'd like to get one in the Teespring store. And on the other side, there's a comment or a quote by the founder of the Bank of England, William Patterson. And this is what he said, hidden in plain sight. The bank hath the benefit of all interest on all monies which it creates out of nothing. So that was William Patterson, founder of the Bank of England, 1694. So with that, let's look at where these markets are this morning. Of course, there are some headlines about coronavirus. It says China reports huge jump in new coronavirus infections and details oil stocks tumble. That's from Zero Hedge. So let's quickly look at where we are. Spot gold is up a little bit, up $6, almost $7 at 1572.50. Range has been 1565 to 1576. Silver is up 14 cents, 0.75% at 1760. Range has been 1745 to 1767. The Dow future is down only about 94 points, really, which isn't that much considering we just have been going up so much in the last week or so. It's down a third. S&P futures is down a third as well. NASDAQ 100 futures down 0.5%. Currencies, sterling is unchanged, 129.56. Euro continued to drop yesterday during the day. I saw that it continued to drop further. We're at 108.76. So just an update. So the XAU-EUR, so the price of gold in euros is making an all-time high this morning. We are at 14.46 right now, traded up to 14.49. So gold continues to make all-time highs in euros. Euro continues to sink, of course. The Japanese yen, the dollar is down versus the Japanese yen, 0.25%, 109.82. And the dollar is up 0.1% versus the Chinese yuan at 698.17. Crude oil is unchanged at 51.38 WTI. 10-year yield right now, down 3.5 basis points at 159. So we've come back below 160. So the Ponzi monetary central banking system we have, I'll start with the analogy and the monetary system, so to speak. If you look at banknotes, I've got some old ones here. I think these are from the 60s, a 10-pound Bank of England note. But it's very easy to see here. If you look, there's a promise here, and I'll read it. It says, I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of 10 pounds. Well, up until 1914, just before the war started, you could take this theoretically to any bank and ask for 10 of these, a sovereign, which is still, legally, it's still a pound. But back when this note was printed, you couldn't anymore. So this was just an empty promise. So is this one here. I think this is from 1967. 10 shillings. That's before decimalization. Same promise. I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of 10 shillings. Nothing, but it's just a note. So this is how paper money was supposed to be. It's supposed to be a receipt for silver or gold that you deposited in a bank. But what happened is the bankers started cheating, basically. They started issuing notes that weren't backed by gold and silver. And that's where the problems start. And the analogy I have is very simple. You go to a restaurant, really popular restaurant in the winter, loads of people. People stop at the cloakroom before they go in to take their coats off, and they issue a little ticket with a number for your coat. So can you imagine if people, after finishing their dinner and leaving, presented their ticket at the cloakroom, and they said, oh, I'm sorry, we were just going to give you a new ticket. Your coat is not available right now. So that's, people would be not very happy. Can you imagine if they did that to a third of the people who went for dinner? They'd be calling the police, I would say. Where's my coat? I want my coat. And that's what they've done to the monetary system. The thing about gold and silver and money is that it's the utility is kind of different than a coat. Of course, you need your coat to keep warm. Gold and silver are different because they represent value. So they've been getting away with this for years. But that's why it's a Ponzi scheme, because there's not enough real money backing any of this paper. And I know we're not in a gold standard anymore, but the system we're in is fractional reserve, and it's fraudulent. And that's why the Federal Reserve can keep issuing, or the Bank of England keep issuing these, and QE. There's no worries about backing it, so they can do it ad infinitum. Of course, there will be a point where people lose confidence in it, and that's when the price of precious metals or the price of the paper is going to collapse versus precious metals, just like it's doing already against the euro. Because economic law can be suspended for a while, but it won't be suspended forever. What about Charles Ponzi? What was his scheme? I read about this many years ago, about the Charles Ponzi scheme. He was an Italian immigrant. I think he was in Boston, Massachusetts. And this was around, I think it was before World War I, early 1900s. I don't remember exactly. I'm not going to look at Wikipedia. I'm just going to go from what I remember. And basically, he found out that he was a poor immigrant, of course, from Italy. So he basically found out that there was a way to make money with foreign stamps, that the exchange rate used for the stamps was different than the normal exchange rate at a bank. and he realized there was a little small arbitrage opportunity for the stamps, foreign stamps and American stamps. Yeah, you can make a little bit of money, but it's only stamps. But he sold that as a big opportunity to make money. And basically it was a derivative, like a scam, because people started putting money with him, thousands and thousands of dollars. And there was no way that he could do this arbitrage deal with the amount of stamps that there were out there and make that money. So what did he do? How did he convince people to keep coming and putting money with him? Well, the original investors, he would pay them with the new money and say, here, you've made 20%. So it kept bringing in people. And it's the same thing with this banking system. They just keep printing more money and people think it's something real and they keep coming. But one day they'll realize that there's nothing behind it. And why are gold and silver so important? Well, you have to go back further into how money evolved, before money, of course, or even when there was money, and even nowadays, when you exchange things, you want to exchange things that are valuable to you and to the other person. So you've got something of value to John, and he's got something that you value. So you exchange that, you barter it. But it becomes difficult to barter because it's difficult to match wants between people. But historically, people have found that there are some goods like precious metals, conches, or cigarettes, even at the end of World War II in Germany. And that was only temporary. It doesn't work the whole time. But people have found out that gold and silver are always something that people will exchange anything for. So it becomes money. It facilitates direct exchange. So it has to have some value to people. So a piece of paper is not something everyone wants because it's not worth much. But how do they make it worth something now? Well, because they passed the legal tender laws, as I've said before. They force people to use this. They stop people from using these. They tax it, and they come up with income taxes, and you have to pay it with these. And that's what's happened to our system. So until we have a system that is honest, where you actually deposit money, and by money I mean silver or gold, with the bank, and the bankers, the people who keep your deposits, until they actually stop cheating people and writing receipts for things that don't exist, our system is going to be unstable. It's going to be susceptible to inflation or bubbles like we're seeing now. And we've seen just now in the last few days, Jay Powell in Congress saying that the Fed is prepared to do even more of this credit creation out of thin air, or QE, to keep the Ponzi scheme going. He's encouraged also Congress to spend even more if the economy slows down, to create even more debt so that they can buy this debt with more Ponzi scheme credit money, or credit really, because it's not really really money. So that's why I'm saying that it's a Ponzi scheme, and it will end in tears. And that's why you need to have precious metals as a protection versus the eventual collapse of these paper currencies that are basically backed by nothing and created out of thin air, that have no intrinsic value except the paper they're printed on. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit that little notification bell above to be notified of all my new videos. It seems like YouTube keeps taking people's notification off. It looks like they are even unsubscribing some of my viewers. They're unsubscribing my channel from their YouTube platform. So you need to keep an eye on that. Please share this video far and wide. You can also follow me on Twitter, Facebook, BitChute, Steemit, and DTube. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.